as always, by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza, where Stay Hot, they're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. And we're here to talk about mostly the NFL divisional round of the playoffs. The wild card is wrapped up. We recapped the weekend games on our Monday episode, but then of course there were two games that happened on Monday. We did a live stream during the Eagles and Bucks game. Many of you tuned in for that, and we had a lot of fun watching that. But we didn't really get to talk about Steelers Bills, and even though we watched Eagles Bucks, we can still briefly recap that game and talk about the ramifications of it. But before we get into that, and before we get into the predictions for the divisional round, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing fine. I don't have too much to report.
Really?
I'm having one of those days where I'm in a good mood for no reason.
Hey.
So that's good, but I don't have anything going on. So,
wow.
Just another day.
Nothing from either.
Local man in a good mood.
Local man in a good mood. There's nothing wrong with that.
Something to smile about today.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying doing my stuff. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And I'm about to enjoy this podcast, I think.
Hey, I've been enjoying most of what I've been doing, except my dryer broke. So laundry's been a pain.
Dang.
That does suck. That's going to be expensive too. You just moved into the new house. Is that a dryer that you recently bought, or where did you get it from?
No, it was there. So they left all the appliances. The kitchen appliances were brand new, but the washer and dryer were very clearly dated. So no warranty or anything on them. I figured I was going to have to get a new one eventually. But the element went out in the dryer. So I was like, well, I went to have a repair done and it's going to cost me like $300 or $400. So I'm like, well, for that, I might as well just buy a new dryer. So I'm not getting anything crazy, but it's still.
You're not getting it hand stitched from the dryer experts of Sweden or whatever on the slow roll.
Yeah, I'm not having like Japanese technicians handcraft me the greatest dryer of all time, and it's going to be $7,000. No, it's just like a basic LG. It's like $500. It's coming. Well, I just needed something quick, like more than anything. And I'm going out of town on Friday, so I needed it Thursday. Also, Matt, we can't hear you, but
enough about Blaiden's dryer.
My dryer scandal. Let's talk about some football. We'll hope that Matt can get his mic back on here shortly. I hope
it's working now.
It's working. So let's talk about football. Let's just get through the Eagles Bucks since we kind of already have a handle on that game.
We all saw what happened.
Run through. Yeah. The big thing I think is, what they need to do at the coaching staff. I think obviously people expect them to clean house there. Sirianni gone, Brian Johnson gone. The play calling was some of the worst we had seen all year, especially against the blitz. They just had no answers at all. But they also are not exactly the most perfect roster in the world, and they're going to be probably losing a couple of guys. There was Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey were on their podcast. Jason said that even though the media says that he announces, he hasn't officially said he's going to retire, but we expect him to. They're going to have some pieces they need to fill. Their secondary is definitely an area of weakness. Where do they go from here?
Well, they got to go in a new direction, at least at a defensive coordinator. If they don't like Desai, Patricia certainly is not the answer. And that whole switch was just a complete disaster. And I think it's a fireable offense to make it, considering the results that they were having before and after. I mean, they couldn't do anything on Monday night at all from a defensive standpoint. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't really rush the passer. They were in the wrong spots. They were in the wrong gaps. Their coverage was abysmal. And really the biggest problem is their linebackers. I think if you replaced Morrow and Cunningham with like two good linebackers, I think it would get like way, way better immediately, even with no coaching changes. Like those two were such liabilities like the entire season that maybe it really is just that simple. Because I think the safeties even are okay, like Byard and Blankenship.
I like Byard, but like they even were they even Byard had
they
one
didn't
play
tackle,
where he was stuck in cement.
Yeah, it's really like the linebackers and the tackling, I feel like, are the main things that you could point to and say like these are massive problems. I think the downfall of their front four and their pass rush is definitely something that's noticeable, but it's not as bad as the linebackers. Like Jordan Davis isn't as bad as the linebackers, and I thought Hassan Reddick was pretty disappointing in the last game, but he's not as bad as the linebackers. And Jalen Carter got knocked out a few times versus the run. It's like he's not as bad as the linebackers at all. So I really, not to put all the blame on just one position group, but man, it was one of the worst groups in the league, and I think that showed over and over and over again. And unfortunately, this is not a very good linebacker draft class yet again, and it really hasn't been for a while.
They don't make off-ball linebackers like they used to, I'm afraid, and it's a damn shame.
I do wonder what Nolan Smith could do if they moved him up there. I legitimately, I think he was actually one of their better defensive players when he was on the field on Monday. Not that that's saying too much.
He had that one play where he got around the edge super quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I still don't feel that bad about the Eagles' future. It's not that gloomy. I know they might be losing Kelsey, and I almost wonder if that's going to be depending on how he likes how the team shapes up for next year, and if that extends into the offseason, or if he's just decided he's done it. Which, if he is, one of the best to ever do it,
Definitely.
one of the most complete careers of any center, but we've seen a similar roster last year with just better coaching and better play calling achieve far, far more. I don't disagree about the holes they have on defense, but they're not in like a Saints level cap hell situation where they can't add to this team. And offensively, I still think for the most part, most of the pieces are still there, even when Kelsey goes, right? There's no reason why an offense with Jalen Hurts, who has probably taken a little bit of a hit in terms of public opinion on him, but I still think him and the weapons that he's got, it still should be a successful offense with what at worst will be an above average offensive line.
And it was mostly a successful offense this year. It wasn't they weren't scoring like 40 points a game. They weren't that ridiculous like they were last year, but they were still by most metrics a reasonably successful offense. I mean, I think they were top 10, maybe even top 5 in the league by EPA over the course of the season.
Yeah, I just feel like more balance.
The defense really let them down at the end. Like they lost 6 of their last 7. And in that final stretch, we talk about how bad Seattle's defense was. The Eagles' defense was just as bad.
Yeah, they just need more balance on offense. Like they're so skewed to one thing. Like they're in shotgun 93% of the time. And that's just a lot of pressure to put on a quarterback when you're not ever getting those under center play action looks that are so efficient. I think that's a very easy tendency that they don't even have to fully, like they don't have to become some major under center team, but it's like, well, like let's get 10% of plays under center, or, let's not be dead last.
Center plays are just the tush push.
That's a good question.
Probably all of them, man.
It probably is. And
so
like let's get some motion in here. They're dead last in motion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their talent isn't.
We saw a lot of plays against Tampa where they would face man covered and they got no separation. It's just like a bunch of vertical routes and no one wins except for Devontae.
Yeah, they could definitely be less vertical as well and try to get it between the hashes a bit more. I think they could have better answers versus zone. It's just a lot of like settle down, just almost Lombardi Chargers-esque, where it's just guys like finding the soft spot and stopping. It didn't feel like they knew what to do now that they saw zone so much more this year. And yeah, of course, a bigger commitment to the running game, I think, as well. Jalen Hurts didn't really move the ball on the ground as well as he did the year before. That was a big part of it. And then they just didn't really trust their stable of backs, it felt like, or they just had too much faith in the passing game. I don't know which one it was, but yeah, I just feel like.
I mean, there's some, I don't think the backs were particularly strong this year. Swift jokes aside, I don't think he projected out as a true number one. I think there's a reason why the Lions moved on from him. And outside of that, I mean, it's Kenneth Gainwell, who I've never been high on. There's things to add to the offense. Obviously, you got to figure out what you're doing on the offensive line, and you really do need another receiver there. Right, their wide receiver 3 position, their situation
Theo,
there is
I gave you shit for that earlier in the year. You were so right. They don't have another guy that can create at wide receiver.
Yeah, AJ Brown goes out, and all of a sudden it's like Julio Jones and Watkins.
It's bleak, man.
Yeah,
it's bleak. And their receivers are still obviously a way above average, even with a weak number 3. But that and a back, if that's what you're asking for, is pretty cheap fixes you have to figure.
Yeah,
it's just the standard we're holding them to is like Super Bowl contender.
Well, as we should. They made the Super Bowl last year.
Right. Yeah. Right. We're not asking them to like finish a rebuild. It's like you are supposed to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and you got crushed in the wild card round against Tampa.
I would definitely. Would you guys fire Sirianni?
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I probably would too. I mean, assuming that you feel good about your chances of getting like one of the main.
You would probably be the number 1 team to go to. You'd be up there, man. You'd be pretty set. I mean, maybe there's. I guess it depends from coach to coach on what they like to do. But dang, if it's not, feel like you can't win the Super Bowl year 1 because you totally could. But I think with Sirianni, it's like, yeah, you can look back and be like, well, he won 11 games this year and he made the Super Bowl last year with one of the best teams in the NFL. But that's almost sort of the same thinking that had me believing in the Eagles this year, where it's like, well, yeah, but their track record has been so good. But down the stretch, how much they collapsed is just not acceptable. I mean, I don't want to take away anything from Tampa Bay, and they played a very good game. And we'll talk about them here in a second. But it's just not acceptable to lose to the NFC South winner and be bounced in the wild card. If you're the Eagles, it's not.
No.
And the coaching, the coaching staff changes to me showed that it was the coordination being so strong last year that really pushed them over the edge, and not Sirianni.
Yeah.
I would be super, super intrigued with a Jim Harbaugh coached Eagles team. Like, that fit really, really makes me excited, especially if Kelsey doesn't retire. I think he will, but like he said, it's it's the media. I'm the media. I don't want to make things up, I guess. But they've still got Milata. They've still got Landon Dickerson. They've still got Cam Jurgens in the wings. I haven't heard anything about Lane Johnson's status. I think he's coming back. Jim Harbaugh is a guy who has always been up there in terms of like on the schematic edge. Like right now with defense, it's everybody wants to talk about Mike McDonald, and he was developed by Harbaugh, and Jesse Minter is doing the same thing. So you're getting a desirable defensive system installed if you bring in Harbaugh. And he's always kind of been a ground and pound type of coach without this like huge diverse drop back game. Like when you think of Colin Kaepernick and JJ McCarthy, I don't think his teams at Stanford were too crazy, pass heavy. He Greg Roman and staff and Kaepernick really got things started in San Francisco. So I think if they went to the Eagles with the line that they've got, which is, ranking very, very highly in every metric that you can find for offensive line play this year, I think that he could really start to insert kind of that dominant physicality aspect to it with a running quarterback like Hurts. I think that could be a really good fit. And I think that you wouldn't want a limited drop back game. You obviously would have to develop that a little bit more in the pros, but I like that fit a lot potentially. I think that this roster is almost kind of ready made for someone like Harbaugh to come in if they get a back that he feels comfortable with. And I think they could really pound the rock in a way they didn't this year and be successful.
Yeah. I think the big reason to fire Sirianni, other than the collapse, is they might just need a culture shock a little bit, because I've seen a lot of Eagles fans feel this way, and I thought it felt like that, after halftime of the Bucs game, they look like they have no energy out there.
Yeah, and there was that report that came out that like the vision for the offense was really disjointed between Hurts and Sirianni and Johnson. I believe that. When you read the body language, I 100% believe that that's true.
They have receivers like not knowing what they're doing. I've seen clips where receivers are running into each other. I'm like, dog, this can't happen.
Yeah, it was really bad by the end. It was really bad. So I definitely think that the pool of coaches is good enough, and your roster is good enough that you'd be desirable. Who wouldn't want to go? I guess I don't know all the lore with Howie Roseman, but that's a guy that will go get you what you need, like really active GM. Like, I don't know if him and Harbaugh would quite mesh, but you might have to give Harbaugh the keys to the entire franchise. So maybe somewhere like LA is a better fit for him, and not somewhere with an established GM like Roseman. But I don't know. I definitely think that, all the incidents with
Siri might not be hard to work with, because if Harbaugh's like, hey, I need this, Roseman's like, all right.
Well, what if Roseman says, no, you don't? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything about those guys.
If I need a power running back and Roseman says no, Roseman is crazy.
I guess. I don't know. I that's all speculation. But it was a pretty epic collapse. And I do think that everybody, all the incidents that Sirianni has had, screaming at the Chiefs, like, we could, whatever he said, and then going 2-6, flipping them off, and Hurts having to like calm them down. Like, I don't necessarily get too bothered by those things, but when you're losing, they start to look pretty embarrassing. So yeah, I definitely feel like Sirianni is at the in a very big hot seat, and I expect him to be gone. I know they're having their exit meeting today. We'll see if they can reconcile, but I don't know if
he might be fired by the time we finish recording this. We'll
it could happen. It could happen.
Yeah. But as far as Tampa goes, I don't think we expect them to win, coming up in the divisional round. But, they played a pretty...
Well, let's talk about the Steelers first. Let's talk about the Steelers first, and then go to Tampa when we preview the Lions game.
That's fair. Let's talk about... Yeah, because we didn't get a chance to talk about Pittsburgh at all.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about Pittsburgh at all. It's the last time we see him this year. Their head coach is staying, Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Do you guys agree with that? Do you... Because they've been kind of in this cycle of semi-mediocrity, semi-good. Do you think Tomlin's worth keeping around?
Yes, absolutely. I think Tomlin is worth keeping around. What do you want him to do at quarterback?
Like, that's my thoughts exactly.
Exactly.
You're just not going to go compete when the quarterback is Mason Rudolph. And it's like they played a tough game, and they were borderline in it there for a while, and they fought hard, and they deserve some credit for that. But I don't think any coach was going to go be majorly successful, more successful than Tomlin was this year. Right. I mean, if they advanced, they would have easily had the worst quarterback of any team in the divisional round. And that's including Baker, in my opinion. I don't know what their solution is there. I don't think they're in a very good position to get a quarterback. They haven't had a good quarterback
since like 2018.
Yeah, since Big Ben was playing well.
Right.
And they haven't really been a serious threat since Big Ben was playing well. I don't know what Tomlin's thought process is. I know there were some rumors that maybe he was considering it, that he didn't seem to like all that much.
No, he didn't seem to like that.
But I think you'd be crazy to move off of Tomlin. You know what you've gotten him.
Yeah.
The fact that they've gone through all this turmoil and they haven't bottomed out speaks highly, highly, highly on him.
Look at what happened to the Patriots.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody is going and consistently winning without without a quarterback, and they've not only been bad there. It's not like they've had somebody who's okay. It's not like it's I'm trying to think of an average quarterback, but I don't want to insult anybody. I was going to say like
Flacco.
a Goff, but Goff is not Flacco. I don't know.
Tua.
Would you rather have
There you go,
Flacco or Tua?
Tua. That's
I think it's fair to call Tua average. I agree. And if you're a Steelers fan, like what position group are you really disappointed by this season outside of quarterback? The running backs look great. You know, Pickens and Johnson came on. The line started to gel. Broderick Jones had a pretty brutal performance. He got kind of toasted. But overall, it was better line play this year in Pittsburgh than we've seen in a while. You know, the defensive line, Keanu Benton looked pretty good, I thought, as a rookie. So did Nick Herbig as a depth piece, like coming in. He made some splash plays. Joey Porter, Landon Roberts played well in the Bills game and has really played well all season. Like they don't have anything at linebacker on paper, you know, going into the year, and it's been a struggle spot for them. But I know Miles Jack was bad in the Bills game, but like they brought him off, you know, retirement, off the couch. Like, yeah, they had some pieces like play decently this year for them. And Eric Rowe, like again off the street, like had some nice moments for them down the stretch. Like their roster and their defense was pretty good this year, and their offense outside of quarterback, you know, took some strides. And the frustrating thing about Tomlin is like we aren't bad enough to pick a quarterback top one.
Right. But, exactly.
But like,
do you want to get rid of him and tank is what you should be doing. Absolutely.
But if you tank, like, is there any guarantee that the tank works? You know, it's like, what are we mad about here? Like, it's hard to replace Big Ben when you're drafting in the 20s all the time. So maybe they have to make the big trade if Dak Prescott were to become available for whatever reason. If Kyler were to become available for whatever reason, I don't think either of those things are happening at all. But I think you stick with Tomlin, and then you just got to jump and maybe overpay at that first good quarterback, you know, that becomes available, whether it be in the draft or in the trade market. Like you got to do something. But yeah, I don't think Tomlin is a problem at all. His only really horrific move was keeping Matt Canada around or really hiring him at all. Like that was pretty unacceptable, but that's over now. And you're left with a team that seems pretty good and seemed a lot better after they fired Canada. So it's not like he's coming back.
They really need a quarterback.
And you got to wonder, I mean, it's tough because making the jump in the draft above so many teams that also would want a quarterback for like Daniels, who I have questions about, although I think is a pretty serious first round guy, or Penix, who had, you know, has been very up and down in his stock, or like, you know, maybe staying with Bo Nix or whatnot. It might just not be there for him this offseason. And, you know, there's plenty of quarterbacks who are good who have been drafted below that 20 range. It happens. But if you're waiting around tapping your foot, hoping that it, you know, expecting it to happen, it's gonna take a while. It feels like. So I don't know what they do.
My guess right now would be a Pickett Mason Rudolph like battle.
That's what I think. Or like bringing in like a Brissett or something, or maybe they want Kirk Cousins and they're hoping that he comes off good off the Achilles. If Minnesota decides to do something, but Minnesota is also not in like a guaranteed position to get a guy themselves, and they could be out. Yeah, I think the top end quarterback play in the NFL is good, but if you're sitting past about, you know, 20 or whatnot, you're really scratching your head because there's just not enough even serious options to go around. There's going to be some teams left with just like, well, we know going into the season they don't have a chance, and I'm worried the Steelers could be one of them.
Yeah. And we'll see about Mason Rudolph. I don't rate him super highly. I think that maybe someday he could be like a Goff type figure. I think that he is pretty good at hanging in tight pockets. Like he can stand on a pitcher's mound, and really things can get pretty constricted, and he's tall and he just stands there. And he made some throws from those types of pockets in his time as the Steelers starter, which were nice, but just wasn't ever quite efficient enough, and he's not really the playmaker that I like. So I don't really know. He's not as skittish as Pickett, which I like. But those two are kind of opposites, but they don't really make up. They have major like weaknesses that everybody I think can see. So yeah, I don't know about that mid off, but I don't know what option would be better. Like that might be what it comes down to. But I don't think Tomlin is a problem at all. I think that he's a solution. I think that he would definitely be hired immediately if he were to be fired.
Right.
So
Philly.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's better than Nick Sirianni. So
yeah. Not saying a whole lot. But yeah, no, I completely agree. It's impressive they even made the playoffs at all. And for them to even hang around without TJ Watt.
Yeah, and they did hang around.
God, how many years in a row have we said this about the Steelers? I get the frustration from Steelers fans. It's like, it's impressive that they even had a winning record at all. But you only can hear that so much before you're like, man, these 9 wins don't feel so good no more. But it's just it's not Tomlin. It's not him.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's better to be like playing meaningful football at the end than sucking. It really is. Like I understand.
I can tell
I think they're always like, it's complacency. It's complacency. But I really think it's like, you're just too good to get a post-Ben quarterback, and they didn't draft Jordan Love. And they, that's
true.
They didn't draft anybody when Big Ben was there, to just have that smooth transition. And
must be nice.
They're just too good. They're just too good.
Oh, man. What about Buffalo, though? Make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL part of your game day. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday. And get ready for some football and some fun. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game.
Well, yeah, let's get into these divisional predictions brought to you by Prize Picks. Brought to you by Prize Picks, and we'll be picking and breaking down the divisional round games. And yeah, let's start with Buffalo versus Kansas City. We've never seen this one before.
No, these are two teams that people have been really waiting to see a matchup from. Hasn't lined up in the past. Not very much good out there. But
it's not like they based a rule off of this game.
No, they didn't base any rules off any games. I don't know what to think with this one. The Chiefs' offense definitely inspired a little bit more in kind of a weird circumstance, and their defense feels very much back, would be the first thing that I think of. But you still had situations, I mean, in last game where the receivers were not tracking the ball well. They were not doing well. Mahomes made a great play, and it didn't work out. And what you didn't have is the Dolphins being able to meaningfully pressure at any point without trying to send heavy heat because their edge rushers were out. So it's hard to judge them based off of a game where they're playing a defense that was just that out of it and that miserable of a situation where it's like everybody's hurt, corners are banged up. It's freezing cold, and we should be in Miami right now playing whoever. We should be playing the Steelers in Miami right now, but we're here playing the Chiefs, and it's minus 30 out. This sucks. Like I would have lost on purpose and gone home myself.
Real.
But I think if the Chiefs are going to win this one, it's probably going to be a defensive battle more than it's going to be some sort of grand offensive showing from Kansas City.
It's really
the Bills a little bit.
It's really whose flaws are going to come back and haunt them the most. Is it going to be Allen's turnovers or is it going to be the Chiefs' drops?
I don't know if these teams can make a run because this one's going to have this wear up and this one's going to have this rear up.
One of them is going to flare up. Which one is it going to be? I think it's more likely that the Bills' issues flare up just because the Chiefs are so much healthier on defense. And I'm copping out and just going with that. Like the Milano injury, Trey White, more linebackers leaving in the next game. They're going to be playing their cover 4 or whatever I assume they're going to be playing. Although I don't know if they will because the Chiefs are so terrible with the deep ball this year. It's like, why even put a roof on it these days? Like, just make Mecole Hardman track the football.
We're not putting a roof on Hardman, man. We don't need to sell out to do that, man.
They are second in the...
You could just have Poyer and Hyde just play in the box at this point.
They like to keep the two high. I would not play cover 2 and have AJ Klein as that, middle hook defender versus like Kelsey on a seam as Kelsey's having a down year.
I've seen them do. I feel like they would play Poyer in man coverage on Kelsey.
Yeah, that's what they're going to have to do. They're second and middle of the field open coverage right now, which typically I think has been a lot of quarters for them this year, which they'll probably continue to play a decent amount of. But that puts a lot of pressure on your linebackers on Kelsey. I don't know if they're going to quite continue that. They may need to switch up their game plan a little bit more, play more man.
I thought that's what they did. I thought that's what they did the last time these two teams played, wasn't it? Was they put Poyer? They just kind of had Poyer follow Kelsey around. Am I wrong about that?
They should, yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
Bills fans, let me know if that's if I'm wrong on that. But that's what I'm imagining.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to have to do. It'll be interesting to see. I think what their pass rush plan is. Obviously, there was all the heavy blitzing that Miami did in the last game that had a little bit of success. It kind of forced the Chiefs to have some, to speed things up a little bit more.
Yeah,
I thought Mahomes handled it well, but like their receivers didn't really handle it super well.
I think you can heat them up to an extent, but I mean, with the Dolphins in the situation they were in, it was like that or nothing, and you just can't live like that. I don't entirely disagree with your point about the Bills being so hurt, and it's a shame because their defense had really like turned it around from all those injuries, but now it's like you're down to AJ Klein off the street, man. I mean, I think there was some report about how he had to like cancel a family trip to go and play for the Bills, and then he like led them in tackles or whatever. They told him you can't be a family man anymore.
Yeah, he was going to Key West, and then they were like, "Do you want to come play in a playoff game?" So I don't know. I just don't. I think that the Bills' offense is better than the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs' defense is just way healthier than what the Bills are up to right now.
And it's good, man. It's good. Bolton back, it's been good.
It has been good.
It's a strong defense, man. It's way more good players than bad.
Yes, for sure. And their corners are playing great football, and I still worry Shakir. I hope they lean on Shakir. I think that he could be the new Gabe Davis, where he could have a huge game as the number 2 in a playoff environment. Obviously, he had the most ridiculous touchdown maybe of the season in the last one, so maybe it's already happened. But I want to see an 100-yard Shakir game, and because I think if you start to get James Cook and him and Diggs and Kincaid and Knox, now I'm like, okay, Gabe Davis out of here. I don't need to see any 0-yard performances from him. Like, you're starting to move me a lot more than last playoffs, actually. So maybe I should just bet on the better offense, but I picked the Chiefs though in my preseason brackets my pre-playoff bracket. So that's what I'm going to stick with.
If we're just looking at the Chiefs' issues and we say it's the receivers, they can't track the ball down the field outside of like Rice and Kelsey, and their tackle play. And they're now going into a game with at least marginally more healthy edge rushers. And I do like the idea. I do like having Poyer or Hyde coming down to take on Kelsey. And then if you just went single high to stop anything down the field that could potentially come into play.
Yeah, you could be pretty aggressive if you wanted to, if you were Buffalo. And maybe that mitigates the linebackers not being as strong a little bit, just having more people in the box.
Or just sending them on a blitz, like we're not going to have them cover. I mean, that's kind of what the Dolphins did. It's like, we don't have guys to cover, so we're just going to blitz everybody and see if the Chiefs receivers can win one-on-one. And they dropped they dropped a ton of passes.
Yeah.
Or didn't track them or something.
The Dolphins offense just couldn't really move the ball. I think what Allen delivers is just so much more high powered that if the Chiefs leave a window open, I think the Bills are going to have a much better option capitalizing than the Dolphins did. I think I lean Buffalo, and I think I picked Buffalo before, but I think that's who I would take.
I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think if Allen plays a big game, and I think he will.
He has been good in the playoffs.
The Chiefs offense. Yeah, and he usually rears up in the playoffs. You know, he has his interceptions still, but if we believe that those are not the end of the world, and unless you're expecting them to have like a week 1 Jets-esque game, I think they can get it done. I think the Bills offense has so much more to it. I don't really think the Chiefs are that strong of a running team either. I think it's easy to get fooled when Pacheco takes a million steps and you're like, dang,
James Cook has had a good year.
But their run game has really gotten it together. And I agree with Shakir and Knox and Kincaid. They have a lot more options. I mean,
yeah,
maybe how many dudes do they have on the team that could be like the number 2 on the Chiefs?
Maybe I
3
should
or 4, right?
Maybe I should pick the Bills because they've been one of the best red zone teams, and that's a place where the Chiefs have struggled a little bit. I think all of their issues kind of get compounded when they get to the red zone. Some of the perhaps play design overthinking crops up there. You know, when they're between the 20s, the wide receivers are bad. When the space gets constricted, they're still bad, unbelievably. And Mahomes isn't a guy like Allen where you can really run him on purpose. Like he can make something happen himself, but they don't just have that type of battering ram, and the tackles get beat. Kelsey is an absolute liability blocking, absolutely awful at it these days. So like but he obviously he has to be in there. So you've got, just another body out there who can't really block, which I think compounds these issues in the red zone. And the Bills don't really have all of those problems to the same extent. So maybe I should, now that I'm talking about it, change my pick. Like the offense I have more faith in that's probably what the smart money is on, huh?
Yeah.
The Bills feel like,
and it's at Buffalo,
the right pick to me, but
yeah, I agree. I'll go Bills, even though I picked the Chiefs in my bracket. Right. I don't know though. I don't know. No one clip me and dunk on me if the Chiefs
aren't exactly fans of the show. Like
if the Chiefs win by 1, I don't want to hear this.
I'm putting this on a hard drive and driving it to Kansas City, man.
It'll be a close game. I go back and forth, but I think the Bills will pull it out. Man.
They're just not going to show that part. They're going to AI you saying, I think the Chiefs suck. I think Patrick Mahomes is overrated. And I think they're going to lose by 40. Yeah, but they won't do that to me. They know I didn't mean that. They know I'm just kidding.
Oh, dang.
So me and Pat are cool like that. He wouldn't.
Someone cut that. Where's Stay Hot out of context when you need him, man?
Let's move on.
Whether you're resolving to save money, eat better, or stress less this new year, HelloFresh has got you covered on all fronts. Picture this: farm fresh ingredients, chef-crafted recipes, and everything delivered right to your doorstep. It's the ticket to the most delicious year yet, and it's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Look, I've been using HelloFresh for a while now, and the convenience is unmatched. No more trips to the grocery store. Each HelloFresh box comes packed with pre-portioned ingredients. Cut down the hassle, wasted food, no more. And speaking of variety, HelloFresh's menu is incredible, with over 45 dinner options every single week. Trust me, recipe boredom is not a thing here. And one of my favorite things about HelloFresh is the time it saved me. They handle the meal planning, all the shopping, and all I have to do is open my weekly box and I'm ready to cook with step-by-step recipes. And for those hectic nights, HelloFresh's quick and easy meals, including their 15-minute recipes, are absolute lifesavers. Now, as we're all looking to revamp our eating habits, HelloFresh has got us covered with wholesome, health-forward options, over 30 calorie-smart and protein-smart recipes each week. Yes, please. And here's a little bonus for you. Free breakfast for life. Yes, you heard me right. HelloFresh is giving all subscribers a free breakfast item with every single delivery. That's worth waking up early for. So, my friends, if you're ready to make 2024 your most delicious year yet, go to HelloFresh.com/StayHotFree and use the code StayHotFree for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while the subscription is active. That's HelloFresh.com/stay hot free with code stay hot free. And get HelloFresh, America's and Stay Hot's #1 meal kit.
I want to talk about the Bucs side of things. You've already talked about what the Eagles do, but the Bucs advanced. They, on one hand, you have missed tackles. On the other, you could say they're just dogs after the catch, you know?
Maybe.
That's very true, man. They are just dogs after the catch. I think the Lions are going to win this one. Baker played a good game, but Baker has been capable of good games his whole career, you know? And I think he's a starting caliber quarterback. I do. And I think things falling apart in Carolina, looking back on it, probably because he was in Carolina. Probably not the best place to try to revive your career, I fear. But like, you know, is his footwork still getting super choppy in the pocket? Yeah. You know, is he still going to miss some throws because of that? Yeah.
Take some bad sacks.
You wanted to maybe hype up the Bucs some more. You could say, well, how many drops did they have? Uncharacteristic drops from Mike Evans. You know, maybe that won't happen again. And this Lions defense is very, very beatable. It is. So I think they could get some work done, but the rushing game is still very weak for them. I think the Lions defense is at least, you know, not as doom and gloom as the Eagles is right now, even if maybe overall for the season, the Eagles is better. The collapse has been worse. And I think Detroit's offense is just going to come out here. It's obviously on an entire another level. It's one of the best in the entire NFL. There's places to go at this Buccaneers defense.
Yeah, I think they really need to unlock Baker Mayfield and hope that, you know, he's inconsistent. He's up and down. They need to hope it's just an up day for him, because I don't think they're getting much done running the ball against Aleem McNeil and Hutchinson and whatnot. No. The Lions actually do have a pretty good run defense. It's actually first by DVOA.
You're kidding. Is that good? I mean, I know we've
it's not as good from
Aleem
EPA
McNeil for a while,
but they are like, they have been solid defending the run, and the Bucs have just been awful at it. I think where you look at like where we might have an edge, if you're a Bucs fan or coach, is saying Baker is willing to be more aggressive than Goff. And if and they have been a very efficient passing game this year, but they haven't really unleashed this really heavy passing attack. Like, they still want to keep the ball on the ground. And when they do pass it, it's in good spots. It's in like second and short or third and short or something like that. And they have Tristan Wirfs, who's pass protecting really well. Everybody has gotten a little better, or a lot better, protecting the passer versus where they were last year with Tom Brady. And they still have Godwin, so a couple other role players who can pop, like we saw last week with Cade Otton and Moore, number 19. Was that?
Yeah, David Moore.
David Moore, right.
Yeah.
Just forgetting the first name. So I think you just got to drop back and hope for the best, man, and just try to make it a shootout as much as you can.
There's no reason why they shouldn't play like that, because the way I look at it, and I think Bucs fans would agree, you're on house money right now. Mm-hmm. You won a Super Bowl recently. You know, you played in a weak division. You made it. You beat the Eagles. This season's already a win. You know, you kind of already did what you came out here to do. Now you're going up against a defense that has not been particularly good this year. You know the offense is going to get some work done on you. You know if you're going to win it, it's going to be a shootout most likely. Go ahead and let Baker sling it. See what he's got. You got the weapons. The Lions' corners are still not that good. Screw it, man. See what you got. That's what I would do. I 100% agree. I think the Lions still get it done. I think
on defense, blitz Goff.
Well, they're going to do that because it's Todd Bowles. Like,
yes, sir.
They're going to blitz.
Heat, man.
They're going to blitz. And if he makes mistakes, he makes mistakes. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. They've been very, very good against the blitz in their time. They are not the first people to think we should blitz Goff, right? Because, in fact, they are first this year in the percent of times they get blitzed. They get blitzed more than anybody else. And that was true last year too, because their line is so good. You can't really get pressure rushing 4. So you kind of have to, you want to get after Goff. You want to move him off of his spot, but you can't really do it with 4 people. So what do? You blitz. But they have like the world's greatest blitz beaters. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got Jahmyr Gibbs, who they can dump it off to. They've got Sam Laporta.
Yeah,
like they got everybody you want that you could just get it to them quickly and watch them go to work, right? So
yeah,
it's a formula that has been tried and failed many times against Ben Johnson, but I don't think the Bucs have a choice. They've got to try it.
Yeah.
And if they win, it's
pressures. Hold on.
yeah, they got to be in their bag. I don't even know, like just everything. Just I think you got to throw the kitchen sink at them in terms of blitzes and see what you can do. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think letting Baker cook and blitzing the shit out of Goff is a good formula, but I think it's really. They got to do what they.
Ingredients.
These are the
do something.
They got to do
top chef with ramen. What are you gonna do? Might as well throw some shit in there.
Yeah, you got some chili powder, some salt.
Yeah, you can't go to the judges with just the ramen. You gotta. I'd rather them try that than run on first and second.
You gotta start fucking with your competitor's oven. Hope they burn their shit up and hope they keep it raw or whatnot. So that's what I would do.
Start turning down the heat.
Yeah, there you
Connor
go.
Stallions, you're in Michigan. Would you do some work for us? Maybe infiltrate the Lions place with like a janitor disguise or something. Like
How much would they have to pay Eminem to?
I think they need to pay someone a lot more desperate than Eminem. I think they got
fair enough.
A low end employee or Stallions who's
currently unemployed, I believe.
Yeah, currently unemployed and down to do these things. It's just and centrally located, So I don't know. I definitely have the Lions in this one, but I guess I guess I'm not writing off the Bucs because I do think that with their backs against the wall, with nothing to lose, they could come out and sling it all over. And the Lions don't have the greatest secondary, so maybe they fuck it up.
I'd be happy if Baker got a win, and I'd be happy if the Lions got a win.
I think it'd be cool to see the Lions in the championship game. That's what I'm rooting for.
But it would be funny.
It'd be really cool.
It would be very. Here's the thing. It would be funny if the Bucs made it. Wouldn't that be interesting if the Bucs made the NFC Championship game? But it's only interesting for like a day, and then you're like, oh man, it's 49ers Bucs.
49ers.
We're just throwing away a game. We'll only have 3 left, and that's one of them. Sorry, man. I'd like to at least see the Lions.
Yes, I definitely I would be way more intrigued by Lions Packers or Lions 49ers or.
Should we move on to which one of those 2 teams it will be, the 49ers or those pesky Green Bay Packers who just won't quit? They just won't go away. They're crafty.
They're too young to know that they should lose.
They're
Theo, you made a video recently saying that Jordan Love's playing like an MVP.
That shouldn't even be a controversial statement. I mean, the last couple, his touchdown
I'm
to
not saying
interception.
it's controversial. I'm wondering, do you think that will be enough to beat San Francisco?
Probably not. But I mean, the guy has. Do you know what his touchdown to interception? I don't like touchdown to interception ratio, but it's so crazy.
Dang if
that
my boy doesn't have a good one. So,
do you know what it is over the last 9 games?
Unless it's good.
He has 9 games. He has 21 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions.
1 interception, but you're dead on about the 21 touchdowns.
Really?
21-1. 21-1 over the last 9 games.
And he's been balling. These are real big boy touchdowns from what I've seen. So, I mean, I think, the Packers offense was really killer against what was a very good Cowboys defense all year. Now, Cowboys corners played particularly bad. I don't think you'll see that against San Francisco. I don't think that the 49ers have worse linebackers.
The linebackers are the big thing.
Possibly,
I'm like, the corners you might be able to get some work.
Ambry Thomas, like you're gonna have to go after him, and maybe he balls out. Maybe he does. He's had some good performances this year, certainly. Yeah. Like here's my thoughts on the Pack. The Packers have to go out like they are the 49ers. Like their mentality has to be, we've arrived. Jordan Love is like a Mahomes caliber player. Like he's first in EPA. He's over the since week 10, and that's just who he is. Like we just have the best passing attack, and we're gonna play like we do. Kind of similar to the Bucs strategy, where it's like statistically, the Bucs are high in EPA, but they don't pass it too much. Like they got to kind of throw that out the window and just embrace it and hope that the efficiency keeps up with the volume. And I kind of think it's the same deal with the Packers. It's like go in there with the mentality of we can pass the ball better than the 49ers and we're going to do it. I do think that they can slow down the pass rush as good as the 49ers, personnel is, and their pass rush has gotten better post-bye. You've got to give Steve Wilkes credit. They're actually first in sacks per game, I think, since their bye week with 3.3. So it's definitely been a lot more formidable. But I think about the Ravens game, and Lamar had some time in that. Like they'd put Ricard over on Bosa and, chip him and, slide the line the other way. And it would only be like one guy one-on-one. And that one guy could be like Elton Jenkins for us. And he's been playing really well recently and had a great game versus Dallas. So if they can slow down the pass rush and, Love is, bombing it like he has, the safeties are kind of banged up. Ambry Thomas might be able to be picked on, get some eye manipulation, sidearm shit on Dre Greenlaw. I think the Packers offense is legit. I do think they'll be able to move the ball. They've moved the ball on some good defenses, going back to Pittsburgh. I think this whole kind of run started in the Pittsburgh game when they started to turn it around. They're a good defense. The Cowboys are a good defense. The Bears are a good defense. Even the Vikings are a fine defense. So are honestly the Giants and the Bucks, who they've played through it all. They haven't really had a bunch of cupcakes on the schedule. So I do think that they're going to move the ball. You run into Shanahan and you run into McCaffrey, and I just don't know.
That scares you. I think that's the thing that scares you the most. Theo, you've talked about just how bad the Packers' run defense can be at times. If now is as good of time as any for that run defense to figure their shit out, because you're going up against probably the best in the league.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough to go up against a team like San Francisco with all their motion and everything they do with eye candy, with linebackers who've been, biting on that kind of stuff. The Packers love to run all these stunts, and a lot of the times it just confuses themselves. And when you've got that plus the motion, I could definitely see there just being a 10-foot cavern for McCaffrey to run through, and he takes it to the house or something like that. Yeah. And I don't know if the Packers will have the same kind of success running the ball, but I do give them a chance. I do give them a very, very real chance to win this game. I think that's
a line on this game.
I don't know, actually.
What do you think, if you had to guess?
My guess is 49ers by Dallas was favored by 7. Mm-hmm. I bet they have the 49ers pretty similar. I think it's probably going to be
Niners by 9.
I think they're going to cover that spread.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
I think they're going to cover that spread. I think the Packers are legitimately, I do think the offense has kind of arrived in a way. I think they've proven that to me, and I expect them to cover that spread. I expect them to give them a good game, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's unfair. I think they're going to go out and do everything they can. I think they got a puncher's chance. I agree about their offense, being pretty strong, and I agree about Love playing some great ball. And even if he does get heated up, I have faith in him. We saw last game some of his best plays were under pressure. I mean, the one touchdown he had to Wicks was one of the better plays any quarterback this season, and that was a money throw off his back foot with 4 dudes running at him.
He loves the back foot. That's what he does. He's really interesting to watch him maneuver the pocket. He does have kind of almost a Mahomes like quality, a little Mahomey, where
he's a little Mahomey.
Where he doesn't do the right thing. If you want someone who steps up, he does the opposite. He steps backwards, but he has such good arm strength and he's so accurate while doing it that it's okay that he doesn't step up and steps back. He just buys himself extra time. And I just don't think the defense really knows what to expect. There's a play versus Dallas where he bailed out right for like no reason at all. And everybody like went and chased him. And then he just went back into the pocket. And then like all the coverage was mixed up and he threw a dime to, I think it was Dobbs. It was probably Dobbs, like half the big plays for Dobbs. So like but there could be some plays where it's like against this defense, he might back up and then take a 20-yard sack. Like that's kind of what I'm worried about is he backs up and it just doesn't, the magic isn't quite there. And there's some maybe big negative plays and like the high risk stuff that he's been attempting doesn't quite have the same reward as it has
against a worse defense, against worse corners. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I wouldn't stun me if this one got ugly because of that, but I think they can hang in there. I'll be interested to watch.
And it's just they've met so many times in the playoffs. They're due. Like, I don't know. It's
now hold on.
LaFleur has seen it so many times. Like he's got to have like a decent idea of what to expect. LaFleur, like eventually, if you get like 3 or 4 or 5 chances to beat a team, you would think like by now he might have enough of a database in his brain to like
he knows what not to do.
To know what not to do. Maybe that's completely stupid, but I
well, and this brings up a very sickening point that I wanted to mention. So they're due to beat the 49ers, right? Mm-hmm. They've lost so many times. They're due, correct? That would advance them to what? The NFC Championship game,
which
now,
they
Lord
are
knows they are due to win.
Yes.
And then you're in the Super Bowl and then it's just one game.
Exactly.
Against Baltimore, and is Lamar not due?
Oh no!
Oh god!
It could be maybe what you're hoping for is a Chiefs win. They get to the Super Bowl. They're not due. You win it all.
There you go.
Same thing with the Bucs. They're not due for a playoff win. If the Lions win 2, they've already done what they're due for. The Packers are the most.
They've had their dueness building up for quite some time. I fear. I don't think we can count them out. It's a deep reservoir to draw from.
Sadly, Shanahan might be due for a Super Bowl win one of these times.
That's also true. There's a lot of guys that could be due.
But we're due to beat them more than he's due for a Super Bowl win. It's simple math.
Man. I would take the Niners, but I don't hate the Packers' chances. Not as much. I'm not gonna bail on them as much as I did against Dallas.
Yeah, they put you on notice. You shouldn't bail on them like they did.
I see the vision now.
I'm going to take. I took the 49ers in my bracket, so. Fair. I guess I might as well just say that they're probably going to win, but I do highly rate the Packers and think the winner of this game, my suspicion is they will go to the Super Bowl, even if it's the Packers. I think that they
quite interesting.
I think that if they win this,
I agree, the Super Bowl. And I think it will be the 49ers.
That's also what I think.
And I hate to say
you'll either be right or you'll be happy.
This is the real NFC Championship game, so the Packers are double due.
Tweet that. I think we can all agree this is the real NFC
Championship game, which they're due to win, and they're due to beat the 49ers. So,
fair enough.
Actually, the Packers are probably winning by 10. I don't know.
On what you won't go and put money on alternate spread. Packers win by 10.
No,
you get quite a pretty penny if that happened.
No, I will not.
Money where your mouth is, Theo.
Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
But let's talk about, could it be the real AFC championship game between Baltimore and Houston?
I don't feel like that.
Probably not.
I think the winner of Bills Chiefs has a good shot against the winner of this game, but
yeah,
I do think the Ravens will win it.
This is another 9-point spread game,
and I feel about the same. With this game as I do with Packers 49ers. I think Houston is good. I think they're scrappy and young and pesky and all those good, fun buzzwords. I think Stroud can play a really strong game, and I think they can be competitive. But ultimately, I guess I question, outside of Collins, what's going on. I think the Ravens secondary is a lot bigger of a test. I think if Stroud throws an almost interception, it will be intercepted. He's got to play a really, really clean game. Overall, the Ravens defense is, the best in the NFL. And I think there's still guys to pick on. Even though they have the cornerstones, there still are guys to pick on in that Texans secondary. You got Mark Andrews coming back. He's going to be available, meaning that I feel really good about those Ravens weapons. I think it's tough for me to find the reasoning why I would pick the Texans in this one, even though I think they've got a fighting shot.
The Texans and the Packers have the exact same plot line.
It's very similar. It's
plot line this year. They're just, so whatever the Packers do, the Texans are also gonna do. I agree. I think that Slowick needs to keep his foot on the gas. I thought that last week was a really good week for him. Letting Stroud air it out more than he has at any point, and that's what they're going to need to do to win. It's a common theme. If you think that you could potentially have the quarterback advantage, you got to let him cook, whether that be, you're playing Goff or you're playing Purdy or you have CJ Stroud, let him have the opportunity to be like, I'm the best quarterback in the league, because there's a real chance that I think that it happens. He's been so special this season, that breakout performance it's already happened time and time again. Why couldn't it happen again? But
yeah,
I just think the Ravens are a bit too good. The sim pressures on a really young offensive line, you look at Juice Scruggs and Beck and that line outside of Tunsil. I know they got it done versus Cleveland last week. I think the difference between Cleveland and Baltimore is Baltimore has guys at all three levels that.
Right. Yeah. Right. That, you even if you're able to mitigate the pressure with the motion and the misdirection stuff like they were able to do against Cleveland, you're not going to have as many missed tackles in the secondary. You're not going to have as many busted coverages.
Man, Green Bay and the Texans really did play bang even games against bang even opponents, man. You can't overstate how similar that was. But I agree, the back seven for the Ravens is just a whole nother level from what they were playing against the Browns. And getting out of the way of pressure is not enough against them. It's not.
Yeah, really the only answer that teams have had against this Ravens defense is target Brandon Stevens as much as possible. and live with the results, and maybe Nico could go nuclear on him or something. But Brandon Stevens hasn't been bad this year. He's not a bad weakest link if that's what you're looking for. I think the Ravens are my Super Bowl pick. I just think they play a little different. I think that their physicality, I haven't really seen another team like them. Even the Browns, when they were ranked above them, they have that first wave that just swamps you, but they didn't quite bring the same. When you go to Baltimore, I just think that it's different than every other team in the league. And Houston's a really good matchup. I think their defense with D'Amico Ryans can somewhat match that, but it's just not to the same level. The weapons aren't to the same level. I rate Baltimore pretty highly.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win the whole thing. So
they're pretty healthy too. Baltimore is. They've got Hamilton fully healthy. It looks like Humphrey's questionable, Clowney's questionable, but
That'd be big. What is the actual status on those guys? Are they going to play?
I'm trying to.
they probably will if they're questionable. It's the
imagine-
playoffs.
Yeah, they've also had a long time
Humphrey calf did not participate in Tuesday's practice.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just being
No
careful.
word on Wednesday. Yeah.
But Andrews is back to go.
Yeah.
I like the Ravens this one, but the Texans have a fighting chance, and also they're another team playing on house money.
They are. They've got all the cornerstones, like we said.
Every team, every non-favored team is every underdog is playing on house money.
Yeah.
I disagree. Not the Chiefs.
Not the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, not the Chiefs. Not the Chiefs.
I'm trying to think
Tampa,
about how
Green Bay,
the
Houston
Texans, if the Texans defense could really slow down or stop Lamar in any way, or this offense. I'm trying to think.
Everyone on the offense is healthy. Zay, Bateman, Odell, Likely.
I don't know. With how good Lamar's been under pressure this year, man, it makes it tough. You can't just heat him up. And you got to stay so honest when you're trying to heat him up, because he can still get out there. It's a brutal one, man. It's a brutal one.
Yeah, they've just got to, I guess, play to their identity. I think you only got to rush 4. I wouldn't want to blitz him at all. They've got the guys to do it, Grenard and Collins and Anderson. I don't know if you should blitz him one time and then you just hope and pray, I guess, that Stingley does something awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's the plan. They're a quarters team. They're going to be putting guys deep. And yeah, just settle for check down, and hope CJ Stroud is more explosive. That's really I think just all you can do as a Texans fan is limit the big plays on their end. I mean, it's not the fastest offense of all time outside of Lamar. Flowers is damn fast, but Odell and Bateman but again, Mark Andrews.
You got to get some drops going your way.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that's going to kill you is even if you're we'll just limit the big plays. You don't think the Ravens are content with just milking clock and just holding possession?
The problem with limiting the Ravens to big plays is I feel like they've just got so many guys where it's okay, you can try to force Lamar into a check down, but even if you keep perfect integrity, Lamar's going to be able to scamper out there for 13 if he needs to, and I think Likely and Andrews are liable to take short stuff, pretty far, and their run game has been so strong. It's just a lot to hope to hold them, to a long sustained drive. I just think the Ravens are willing to play that game,
Yep.
It doesn't necessarily scare them, and they've got more potential to break off big stuff than they used to because their weapons are better. But it's just a tough one. It's just a tough one.
Yeah, you got to hope Lamar has a Dak game and just the small sample size of him in the playoffs is true, that he doesn't elevate for whatever reason. I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, just just tries to force something or comes out being a bit too aggressive, tests Stingley when he shouldn't or something. That's about all you. If that happens,
that's it. And this is why I think they're all our favorite to win the Super Bowl. Is they're the only team that their one weakness is we just hope Lamar doesn't play good.
Yeah, that's basically
they're the only team they're the only team like that.
Yeah, it's tough to ID anything, and I already killed the 49ers, and they killed the Lions, and they killed the Seahawks, and they killed the Dolphins, and
yeah,
I think
what
they're
are you
the best
supposed to do.
I think they're the best. So
it's even in a game where they lost to Cleveland, they still scored 30.
Yeah.
It's that was supposed to be against, at the time, we considered to be the best defense in football.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't disagree.
They're lights out, but those are our predictions. It feels pretty unanimous, I think, this time.
Yeah,
Did we
I
all
think
go
that
with the Bills? That's the big one. That's.
I
I
did
think
change
we
my
all
mind at the end. I think the Chiefs and Packers could. I may be a little bit more pro them, but
Yeah,
I don't really know.
I feel you.
no one really does.
Matt, any thoughts on the Siakam trade? Before
I'm
we get out
excited
here?
for it. I'm very excited for it. I think the Pacers did a good job adding somebody who maybe there's some questions about like the half court offense fit and how that's going to work. But I think having a second guy to go to is not necessarily a negative for them. And Siakam likes to run. The Pacers obviously like to run. Some of the questions about Siakam in the half court game are when he has limited room to work. And I don't think that's going to be the case for the Pacers, who have, that fifth shooter out there in Miles Turner. You also maybe would worry about like Siakam and his inconsistent shooting. I think he's been really bad this year. Not the biggest deal for the Pacers. And ultimately, like the big defensive wing was what they were looking for because their defense has just been so bad. Siakam's that. So now it's like, okay, well, if Siakam can stick around for a while and Jarris Walker gets up to the level that he's supposed to, all of a sudden you start to see the defense, that with Turner, all of a sudden you start to see the defense fall into place for them a little bit. And while the 3 first-round draft picks is definitely a hefty price to pay, 2 of them are this year, which one will be the worst of like 4 different teams. I think it maybe will end up being the Thunders, which is not going to be a very good pick, and then the Pacers, which is probably going to be a playoff level pick in a very weak draft class, and then a 2026, which hopefully you'll be good then. So I don't think they gave up too much. I also like it for the Raptors. We thought they were dead in the water when it came to like getting anything back for Siakam because he's like, I'm not signing anywhere. And then everybody's like, well, if he's not going to sign here, I don't want him because he won't be on the team. But now 3 first-round draft picks, you got Quickly, you got Barrett. Bruce Brown's a nice piece. Maybe you move him, maybe you keep him. I thought it was a very understandable and reasonable trade for both. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think the Pacers are going to be a pretty big problem. I think that's the development is like they're already good and their ceiling is like noticeably higher than like what they're currently operating at, which is pretty. I think that's exactly where you want to be. That's like the ideal spot, and they're in it. There's a couple teams in it right now, and they're right up there. They could have a huge breakout. So, and they already were second runners up in the in-season tournament. They'd have to be the favorites if they had a mid-season tournament.
Mid?
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Anyway,
I think that wraps things up. We will probably go live during one of these playoff games. We'll figure out which one. We'll let you guys know, of course. But until then, and until, of course, we do our recap, thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.